Yes, it's Sunday, April 15th, 2007. This is a Causes and Conditions meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous in beautiful Malibu. And this little one's called Show Your Assets. Take it away, Casey.
We ask if you share that you stick to the topics of alcoholism, ego, or self, or steps 1, 2, and 3 in application. You're also welcome to ask questions. Would anyone like to begin? Robbie?
Robbie, alcoholic. Yeah, Darren messed me up, I know. Well, my experience, especially with coming to this meeting, was after a short amount of time where we really discuss what the problem is, and that it's a fault-finding mind, and it's a warped mind, and that I have the inability to differentiate the truth from the false, and that I heard a definition of insanity lately as being an inability to see the truth, and that we discuss in such great detail what the problem is so that we can learn to see it. But I found that for myself, that just coming to the meetings and gathering information didn't actually do anything. In fact, it was actually detrimental in a way, because I found that having some detailed information, I could then go to other meetings and my ego would be activated, because I would look at the other meetings as being inferior, right? I wasn't doing anything, I just knew some stuff, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of people that come to our meetings that are actually doing things, and so that's why we see results. We see real change in people, like in Darren. We see real change, and these are people that are actually doing some of the stuff. But I thought maybe today we could, or maybe like to expand upon what it is we could actually do in the day we're in, right?
For what?
Application of the steps to, here's the thing. I believe that most people like me that actually have a warped mind like this get into trouble. I get into trouble with my mind on a daily basis. I'll find them on the highway, for instance, and I cannot seem to overcome the hatred and competition I feel with other cars for which I've never seen before. I'm absolutely convinced that everybody is racing with me, but I'm actually racing with them, right? And if they didn't have that idea in their head before, when I pass them to show them that they're driving too slow, like the speed limit, in other words, then I can bring out the worst out of the people that didn't think very much of my driving in the first place. You know what I mean? So that's just an example, but it happens to me all over the place. I have a lot of trouble being happy and contented in the world with the way that alcoholism, ego, and self presents it to me. A few years ago, there was a movie called Memento. And in this movie, the guy would wake up and not know who he was. And he only had pictures to remind him of what he was doing in the world, notes on the pictures to give him everything to do today. And his memory would wear off every couple hours or something. So he could be in the middle of some activity and wake up and not know what he was doing. I suspect that, it would be hard to maintain an alcoholic mind without a memory. That those collections of ideas that I bring with me, that I wake up to every morning, are what I call, at least for me now, I can see as being self. I have an idea of who I am, what I like, what will make me happy, what kind of people I like, what kind of people I don't like, which is bigger. It's a bigger category, you know what I mean? And that I see a world that self tells me I'll never be happy in. I can't live in this world that I see, right? And so I know I'm in trouble and I need to get out of this world, right? I need to get into a different world. And I believe that this is what the Lord's Prayer means when it says, on earth as it is in heaven. right? That I see outside of me whatever it is I've got inside of me. Because I know that there's certain days, all my life, certain days I've woke up and everything was right in the world. And I would let the car change lanes, and it was okay. In fact, I'd back up and I'd be looking for people to change lanes and let them slide in, and it was a good world. Now, if the world was really one way, then it could never change like that. It's got to be a perception from my inner self that's seeing the world, and opinions of self that I'm dragging into the world every moment. And I'm referring to these opinions from the past to decide how I feel about things now. So
111, last paragraph.
Now comes the biggest question yet. What about the practice of these principles in all our affairs? Can we love the whole pattern of living as eagerly as we do the small segment of it we discover when we try to help other alcoholics achieve sobriety? Can we bring the same spirit of love and tolerance into our sometimes deranged family lives that we bring to our AA group? Can we have the same kind of confidence and faith in these people who have been infected and sometimes crippled by our own illness that we have in our sponsors? Can we actually carry the AA spirit into our daily work? Can we meet our newly recognized responsibilities to the world at large? And can we bring new purpose and devotion to the religion of our choice? Can we find a new joy of living in trying to do something about all these things?
Go skip the next paragraph, go to the next one.
The AA answer to these questions about living is yes, all of these things are possible. We know this because we see monotony, pain, and even calamity turn to good use by those who keep on trying to practice AA's 12 steps. And if these are facts of life for the many alcoholics who have recovered in AA, they can become the facts of life for many more.
Go to 113, last paragraph.
What then have we alcoholics in AA got? Or can
Actually,
we get?
you know what? Go to 114, read the last paragraph there.
Like most people, we have found that we can take our big lumps as they come. But also, like others, we often discover a greater challenge in the lesser and more continuous problems of life. Our answer is in still more spiritual development. Only by this means can we improve our chances for really happy and useful living.
Step there. So, that's always the answer. It's like, what you're talking about is like the subtler things. And that's why it's really cool that they say, but like others, we often discover the greater challenges and the lesser, more continuous problems of life, which is what you're kind of referring to now. Which is, it's a great thing to look at that, what people sometimes refer to as quality problems. Because the guy I knew a year ago that's sitting in that chair right now was a guy that was either up or down. And, and now you're talking about, what do we do as we can continue to go? That's just like, it's always about spiritual growth. And realizing that, it's like, it makes sense that for people like me, it's not the big deals. Because I'm used to catastrophes. I create them all the time. Drunk driving, thrown in jail, fights, all that kind of good stuff, and broke, and, all that kind of spending the money I shouldn't spend, or doing things to people I shouldn't do. I mean, I'm actually used to pretty severe situations. What I'm not familiar with is, how to handle when I'm driving down the road and someone's going 55 in a 55-mile zone when everybody else is going 65. Because it's not that I'm mad that they're going 55. It's just that everybody else is going 65, and why can't they pick up on that? So I'm going to teach them a lesson and see how close I can get to their bumper while I cut in front of them. Of course, I don't do things like that. But, those are things that's like, what is it about me that has a deep need, again, to make people live the way I want them to live? Because that's a subtle way of saying to the world, if you change the way I want you to change, then I'll accept you and I'll love you unconditionally. Look, you have no idea what I could give you if you would just abide by what I want you to abide by. I don't transmit that to you in a verbal way. I just do that by sloshing my car right by you or getting on your butt and stuff like that. Or it could be in other areas of life. It could be in a line at a Starbucks or a coffee bean, It's like, why don't you just decide what you want and, don't lollygag while I'm in a hurry, And these kinds of things in life are like the subtler things that can often be, these strain me greatly. Because when I get off kilter, I'm as off kilter as a dramatic event. If somebody throws me off on the freeway or in a store or in society, it's as severe to a person like me, which makes me mentally and bodily different from my fellows, as it is when I get thrown in jail. I can get that reactive. I can get that hurled. Khalil likes to take silver containers and hit people over the head with them. That's his vision. Over a guy just not being in line doing a thing. Now that sounds like I'm in jail, I got to defend myself, I need to pick up this container and hit someone. You see the parallel. So I realize the reason I'm mentally and bodily different from my fellows is because I can take a small situation and overreact to it, and take a huge situation and underreact to it. So I'm an imbalanced person, so I'm learning balance. Go ahead and keep reading.
Only by this means can we improve our chances for really happy and useful living. And as we grow spiritually, we find that our old attitudes toward our instincts need to undergo drastic revisions. Our desires for emotional security and wealth, for personal prestige and power, for romance, and for family satisfactions, all these have to be tempered and redirected. We have learned that the satisfaction of instincts...
Stop there for a second, because tempered's a big word for people like you and me. You know, tempered is something, I don't know what that means. How do I temper anything? You know, so temperance is something I'm going to learn to contemplate. It might be a great word to take in the day you're in. You say, well, what does a person do in the day? You know, for me, there has to be some goal that I'm trying to achieve today on a spiritual level, whether that's to improve my conscious contact with God, or that I find a particular principle, like we've been talking about, being as willing to listen as a dying can be, taking it into my day for application. That's my point of focus. That's my agenda for the day, is to achieve some kind of movement and attach that principle to something in my mind in the moment I'm in. So temperance is a great one. How can I temper myself on the highway or other situations and relationships? It goes in every area. And, you know, in terms of what people should be doing or shouldn't be doing, it's fine to take note and trying to live in a better world. It's just that, you know, the point that these kinds of things that you're talking about start to get into trouble is on page 65, first paragraph. Second paragraph.
Since most of us are born with an abundance of natural desires, it isn't strange that we often let these far exceed their intended purpose. When they drive us blindly, or we willfully demand that they supply us with more satisfactions or pleasures than are possible or due us, that is the point at which we depart from the degree of perfection that God wishes for us here on earth. That is the measure of our character defects, or, if you wish, our sins.
I go to 71, read the first paragraph there. So let's expound on that. What do they mean, drive me blindly? What are they talking about? 71, first paragraph.
Certainly no alcoholic and surely no member of AA wants to deprecate material achievement, nor do we enter into debate with the many who still so passionately cling to the belief that to satisfy our basic natural desires is the main object of life.
Okay, stop there, because that's a thought telling me, okay, we're talking about monetary needs or instinctual needs. And that's kind of like we reviewed that. We know that in a big nutshell, that our instincts have been injured and that they drive us. So let's just look at the second thought as something like, let's just look at the character that has this kind of mind. Go ahead.
But we are sure that no class of people in the world ever made a worse mess of trying to live by this formula than alcoholics. For thousands of years, we have been demanding more than our share of security, prestige, and romance.
Stop there. Security is when society runs the way I want it to run. That's a form of security. When that instinct drives me, all of a sudden I'm driving other people the same way it's driving me, because misery loves company. You know, fear loves to inject fear in other people. When I'm fearful, I like to create fear in you. If something's bothering me, and you know, it could be anything. It could be money, a relationship, it could be business, it could be something socially. I'll be around you, and I'll try and find something that's going to scare you, and I'll promote your own fear, and I'll say, aren't you a little worried about that? I'd be worried about that, and it's like, I get this fear mode, and I'm not saying you should be worried about it, but I'm just saying if that happens, then this could happen, and if you do it that way, then this could happen, and if you don't do that, then this could happen. So there's only two kinds of fear, and I have a strange way of presenting both of them to you, so you're the bewildered one, and then now you know what it's like, and that we should go carry this message to other people. And present this fear. Because, and when you get to a really sick mind, and there are out there, and probably some in this room, in terms of that kind of fear, is like you make two decisions in life. A fear-based person, they make two decisions. Either they're afraid if they don't do something, that something bad will happen. Or they're afraid if they do something, something bad will happen. Those are the two decisions they make in every factor of their life. I want to get to the movie early, because if I'm not, then there are going to be no seats and we won't have anything to eat. That's a fear. You know, or the reverse side of that. I don't want to get there too early because then we'll just sit around twiddling our thumbs, so I'm always late. So there's two kinds of fears, and either way, they're messing up the situation. So when I start to realize that these fears, this fearful mind, that you can't do anything out of fear. You know, the best way to make a decision is out of a desire to do the right thing, obviously. And what you were talking about with people like me and you is when we do drugs and alcohol the way we do drugs and alcohol, you know, we really have an amazing, you know, convoluted filter that doesn't allow us to see the difference between right and wrong in the moment we're in. It runs us, and it runs us in such a way that it's an insatiable fulfillment need or to be satisfied. So because it's insatiable, it drives me to present things and manipulate things in such a manipulative way. I am talking in the depths of a mind right now. And you'll see characters that live out of fear, and as they do that, you'll be around them and you'll find yourself unsettled around them. You'll find that when you're around them that something strange happens. You feel a sense of unease and that things are a little convoluted and fenced. And, well, don't worry about that. We'll just go over there. Or, you know what? I got that. And you're trying to feed a fear that will just ping pong back and forth. Everything you present to satisfy that fear, it'll just take another direction, present itself. Then that fear will become yours out of the desire to try and ease that fear. You know, this is a pretty in-depth idea, but this thing about being blindly, now go ahead and finish that paragraph on 71. Just talking about a mind that's not satisfied.
When we seemed to be succeeding, we drank to dream still greater dreams. When we were frustrated, even in part, we drank for oblivion. Never was there enough of what we thought we wanted.
So, you know, in terms of that, you know, it's trying to help me to understand that in all the strivings, which is my life, go ahead and read the next paragraph. In all these strivings, that there's something, I've got the cart before the horse, and that's a great conscious effort in the day you're in. Go ahead.
In all these strivings, so many of them well-intentioned, our crippling handicap had been our lack of humility. We had lacked the perspective to see that character building and spiritual values had to come first.
Stop there, man. That's a hell of a concept. Mm-hmm. That in itself is a mission in the day that I'm in. Character building and spiritual values are my priority today, and I'm going to look for any moment that I can attach that principle to my mind, not to the moment, because when I attach it to my mind, then I attach it to the moment. If I try and attach it to the moment, it may not be attached to my mind. Attaching it to the moment could be what we call good behavior. You know, I'm going to act as if, but my heart's not in it. I know I shouldn't cut this guy off, but he's sure pissing me off. You know, that kind of thing. So I'm not going to cut him off, but you know what? That's just like holding the spring down. In other words, you know, where people, I know that I'm the kind of character that I get in my life, and the reason I'm on ease all the time is because I feel like, you know, imagine a mattress with the springs popping out. And that's my life, and I keep holding down these springs all over on this mattress, and it's my life, and they're called problems. And they're things that I'm trying to temper. But I'm tempering them not because I feel it's the right thing to do. I'm tempering them because people tell me that's what I should do, or this is an ideal. I'm not really trying to attach it to my mind in the way that I live. So character building and spiritual values, these venues, they find themselves when that's my desire. And that's a mission in the day I'm in, the one that you could probably practice for a couple decades before you really even touch. But it's the ideal in the day that I'm in is that how can I apply that principle of character building and spiritual values coming first, and that material satisfactions, forget material. Social satisfaction, driving satisfactions don't come first. Relationship satisfactions don't come first. Character building and spiritual, it doesn't matter what you do anymore. It only matters what I do. That's when I start to live where it's not about your behavior, your performance anymore. It's about my life. And if I got to carry the torch, it's really an illusion anyway. But many times we are kind of people that think, oh, I got to do the right thing, but everybody else can screw the pooch. You know, and that's my mentality. And that is a perspective of a mind that's injured. I drink because times are hard. I drink because times are good. So it tells me I got a mind that doesn't really need to anchor onto anything. It's just looking for an excuse. You know, and it is something that you gotta walk in for a while. There is that feeling a lot of times in life where you'll be doing the right thing and others won't. And, you know, something that's important to me to recognize is God's got a great accounting system. It's called space. And if you think of everything that goes on, every thought and every action being recorded in the space that surrounds that individual or that situation, then that space has its own accountability. I don't have to worry about that. So many times do I look at people, I do something nice or I try and do something nice, and when someone doesn't do something nice, I start thinking in my mind how they should be treating that situation, and that's wrong, and they need to be fixed. Like I'm driving, that's a subtle form of self-righteousness. They shouldn't drive 55 when everybody else is driving 65. And so what happens is I'm justified by my own action, but it's really just the same thing. It's that mind that's trying to say, I drive the way I'm supposed to drive, and if everybody drive the way they're supposed to drive, then LA would move a lot. Now I'm a geographical architect for freeways, and I'm thinking about how things should be. And, you know, how about that thought when you're on a 3-lane highway that goes from 4 to 3 and you see the bottleneck? I mean, how many times you look at that and go, why would they design a freeway like that? And you're even measuring the space at which they could have put another lane in. You know, and now you're a freeway architect, you know. And in terms of that, it's just helping me to understand that I got a mind that's a problem mind, you know, and I got to learn to start living a life that tempers that problem mind and not activates it. In terms of that, you know, let's go back to 111. And we did 111, right? So let's go. I'm sorry.
We did 114.
Yeah. And this is where we end up. This is the ideal of where we're going for. But we're looking for principles to get here on 124. Let's just read that first paragraph all the way through to the last one.
Okay. But today in well-matured AAs, these distorted drives have been restored to something like their true purpose and direction. We no longer strive to dominate or rule those about us in order to gain self-importance.
Stop there. Well, why do I want people to drive faster?
They'll conform with my idea of how the world ought to be.
Self-importance, self-righteousness. That's it. Bottom line. Go ahead. But I think it's because I'm actually creating flow of traffic for other people. And the reality of it is I'm not that compassionate. I'm not that empathetic. You know, I have to realize it's just about my own self-righteousness. Go ahead.
We no longer seek fame and honor in order to be praised. When by devoted service to family, friends, business, or community, we attract widespread affection.
But let's go back a second because we're going to break this down a little bit. We no longer seek fame and honor in order to be praised. It's kind of in that principle of like, when I do something right, I don't need to measure what other people are doing wrong or whether they're doing it right. But I have a tendency to do that. You know, when you're doing stuff wrong, isn't it funny how when people are doing stuff wrong, you're like, you know, that's not, you know, well, nobody's perfect. And you're really not talking about them, you're talking about yourself. But when you're doing things right, how everybody else should be in that right mode also. You know, and that's another form of self-righteousness. And what I'm seeking there is I'm seeking praise for how I'm living. You know, you stay sober and stop doing drugs. And, you know, I know for us, people like alcoholics and drug addicts, when they first get sober, they really think there should be some honorary award given to us for being sober, for living, you know, somewhat. It's not like we're living a decent life. We're just trying to live an average life. And, like, there should be some special recognition for the fact that, man, you are getting loaded and now you're not. We should recognize you as man of the year or woman of the year. You know, and that's not, I mean, that's you know, a glorified example, but that's a subtle feeling of it. And I learned that what I do is for my life. If I do it for recognition or to value others, then, man, it's all going to disappear. If you want it and record it in you, you know, the thing that I've learned in life is that when you do something nice and you don't say anything about it, it stays with you forever. But if you do something nice and you say something to somebody else, you have your reward. That's it. They will recognize it. They will see the good deed. But your feeling in you has now been dissipated by your expression of it. When you don't say anything and you look in the mirror, these kinds of moments stack up. And these moments are something you're going to draw on, those times of self-doubt and anxiety and worry and self-pity and depression. You're going to draw on those moments so you don't have to go into that place. Go ahead and read the next part.
When by devoted service to family, friends, business, or community, we attract widespread affection and are sometimes singled out for posts of greater responsibility and trust, we try to be humbly grateful and exert ourselves the more in a spirit of love and service.
So that principle has been covered in step 10, but it's just re-emphasizing it in a different way, but it's been covered in step 10, and it's called big shotism. 92, first paragraph. And that principle is telling me to remember that the only good thing that's happened in my life today is that I've come to believe in a power greater than myself. And somehow, by that concept or by that, things are starting to go right.
Now that we're in AA and sober and winning back the esteem of our friends and business associates, we find that we still need to exercise special vigilance.
So, you know, it's telling me vigilant, that's a strong word, special vigilance. You know, think of a vigilante. And then think of the opposite side of the vigilance of my own self to not seek recognition or have to be recognized distinguishably by other people. You know, it's something you live by. I mean, the bottom line is I think that for me, you know, I've sustained, you know, an attitude of like I'm just scratching the surface. And that anything recognition that I ever get is I'm very vigilant about making sure that credit goes right to God. Because the minute it goes to me, my head will swell up like a pumpkin, and I can't get out the door. So go ahead.
As an insurance against big shotism, we can often check ourselves by remembering that we are today sober only by the grace of God, and that any success we may be having is far more His success than ours.
You know, this is such a great principle because it allows for more success. Because if it's a God of unlimited potential and omniscient power and omniscient knowledge, that means that at any time I can access that knowledge. And omnipotent power, that means that I can do anything with that power. But if that credit goes to that power, then there's unlimited... Were you laughing at my omniscient?
What?
He was.
No,
well,
I didn't
you were.
say
You were.
it
You were
was
covered.
terrible. It was
Just
him.
because I exposed that one day that was omniscient, all right? It's not right, man.
Oh, I swear he said it. And then he said it.
All of a sudden, you get your own place and you're getting strong now, huh?
He said it, and then he hit me and goes, "Don't do that." After he said it, like I said it.
So, you know, the point being is that this God success thing is so cool because when you have good things going on, like the moments, you know, where Darren's taking a birthday, you give that credit to God and and it just keeps flowing. The floodgates are open. The minute you start thinking you got something going, all of a sudden, you know, I'm sober and people are starting to recognize it, you know, and I'm thinking better and I'm sharper and, you know, I've learned, you know, Excel Word and Excel spreadsheets and I'm moving, man. I'm rocking and rolling and I know how to type a computer key now and these kinds of things happen as a byproduct of getting sober and going to work. You start taking credit for any of that and that, like, you know, I got ideas now about how things should go instead of just recognizing all the time any success I'm having in my life is God's success. Now, my motivation behind that is I want more. And the only way I'm going to get more is to not hold on to it and allow to make sure that God recognizes it. You know, it's like all the time, you know, how far you've come. You know, God, you can't recognize where you've been at unless you take a list of how far you've come. You have a disease. We all have a disease. It centers in our mind. Our minds will not cannot recollect, and this is something that's a byproduct of the way we live. Doing drugs and alcohol, you have to, you build a disease of forgetfulness. Because how could we act and do the things we did? You know, how could Darren steal his brother's car? You know what I mean? And then carry his head out the door and say, "I love you, man. Give me a cake. Would you give me a cake?" You know, because of the fact that I can forget. But by the same token, you know, I have to realize that not only do I forget what's bad, I forget what's good. And when one forgets what's good, then self-doubt creeps in. And self-doubt is the killer of human beings. There's nothing more that will kill a human being than self-doubt. That's why it's the credit goes to God because then there's no more doubt. There's no limit to what it could be. It's unlimited as far as it goes. So it's so important to be very conscious and vigilant about recognizing anything good going to God. And then on the counter side of that, you need to make an asset list all day long. If you don't spend your days thinking about the good things that are in your life, those good things will disappear. And then, you know, you'll become a person like you always were. And all you'll see is what's wrong. That's what got you to drugs and alcohol. That's what got you here is you lived in a world that you couldn't live in. The only way you can't live in that world is it starts with people that don't drive 55 or 65 when the flow of traffic 65. That's where it starts, something simple like that. So, you know, I can't tell you how awkward it is. Check your own track record. How many times today have you thought about something wonderful happen? Darren's birthday, I guarantee it's been happening because it's a day of reflection and seeing growth. But why does it take a monumental day for that to happen? You know, why isn't that just a regular discipline? And then in your life, how many times have someone said to you, "You are doing great," and I'm going to tell you that 50 times a day so you make sure that's in your head. And then you synergetically got that information and multiplied it by doing it your own 50 times about all the good things in your life. How many times have you done that? And you can just check yourself today. How many times were you grateful? Or did you take a moment to go, "You know what? This is pretty cool. I got some pretty good stuff going on, you know. I've come a long ways." If you didn't do that, it's the weirdest thing to get an alcoholic or drug addict to take note of the good things that are going on. It's almost impossible. It's awkward. But ask him what's wrong. And you better have a lot of time on your hands because it's going to just keep spewing out. And the reason that's that way is on 125, last paragraph, talks about what kind of people we are.
With each passing day of our lives.
I'm sorry, second to last.
These little studies of AA's 12 steps now come to a close. We have been considering so many problems that it may appear that AA consists of many rattling dilemmas and troubleshooting. To a certain extent, that is true. We have been talking about problems because we are problem people.
Stop there, because that's the most important part. You know, the reason that I get into hell is because I'm a problem person. And the reason that it's so awkward for me to take asset and know the good things that are going on is because I'm a problem person. Once you become a solution person, which is the only thing that these 12 steps are all about, it's a program recovery, not failure. So the program never fails. There is no failure in your life anymore. This method is going to show you that everything that goes wrong, you can transcend it on an asset. And that goes on 93, last paragraph. Go to it's a poor, 4 sentences down, right? 4 sentences down, last paragraph.
It's a poor day indeed when we haven't done something right.
Stop there. How many times have you had troubles in your life and you go, hey, I know there's something right to look at? Or are you more apt to, man, I'm going downhill, I'm missing the mark, I haven't done this, I'm not catching up with that, things are really falling off, the wheels are going to come off, I might get loaded, I don't want to get loaded, but I could get loaded. And you get that rhetoric going in your head, and that's that rhetoric that's saying, wait a minute, it's a poor day indeed if you haven't done something right. And there's a reason they illustrate this, because we are characters that only look at what we've done wrong. And that's what it's saying is like, can you afford in your own life, and you can ask yourself this question, because I've asked myself many times, can I afford to fail ever again? No. Because the ultimate failure was walking through that door, and it was the beginning of my life. That was the best thing I ever did. And that was the ultimate failure. To me, that was the ultimate failure, is I can't stop getting loaded. Can someone help me? That was to me the apex of my downfall. Like I had to grovel in this place, look at wacky people, you know, and my impression, and say, hey, I guess I'm kind of like you. You know? Not all the way, just kind of, you know. And then, you know, when you tell me your drug stories, I got a mind that I'll just say, I never got loaded that way. You are tweaked. You know? And that's, again, that mind of not looking at the similarities, but always looking at the differences. So, and the differences are always a problem. Similarities are always the solution. You know, in terms of that, you know, it's like, I must drive this home. Go ahead and keep reading that paragraph.
As a matter of fact, the waking hours are usually well filled with things that are constructive. Good intentions, good thoughts, and good acts are there for us to see.
And this is a little sentence, was probably one of the most powerful things that the steps say. There's some more too, but go ahead.
Even when we have tried hard and failed, we may chalk that up as one of the greatest credits of all. Under these conditions, the pains of failure are converted into assets.
Stop there. It says, tell me, can you ever fail again in those 2 sentences? No. Because the pains of failure are always converted into assets. Then you look back and say, what's this program about? This program is about converting everything into an asset. Everything. And then you start to realize why this is a perfect way of life. It's an ideal. And the measuring stick is how much have I tried to live according to that perfect ideal. And that means that there are no more failings. There's troubles. You will have troubles. But you have a method that converts all your troubles into assets, because you're going to grow from them. You know, and some of those ideas, start to, we're doomsday people. We got a doomsday mentality. This principle right here should be chewed on, pounded in. Give it a try and watch how awkward it is. And then watch how easy it is to go, what's wrong? And see how much information you have on what's wrong, and then say, what's right? And see how awkward it is to really come up with the concept. Somebody tell me some right things that are going on in their life today. Raise your hand and say some right things. Khalil.
I've been traveling a lot, and something that's really cool about being down there is a lot of this stuff that we talk about, I get to put into application, and then I get to see immediate results, because being kind or being charitable in a place like this, in such a pretentious society, a lot of times it's just like whatever. But down there, when you're generous with somebody, especially because of the dollar value or whatever, it's like a monumental, life-changing thing. And I've gotten to do some stuff down there that, it brought tears to my eyes, and it was so beautiful to witness. And I've learned so much And having this message in my life is really amazing. It's really a blessing, because after coming for years and years and sometimes hating it and sometimes loving it and sometimes trying to avoid it, slowly but surely I began to assimilate it in a way that I can't quite even comprehend, or I definitely can't explain it. But I'm very, very happy in love right now. I'm in the greatest relationship in my life, and I can look at this person and, like you, I guess, well, you taught me, I can say you're the most important person to me, and I love you, and I've never loved anybody like this before.
I love you too, man.
I mean, I can go on all night.
All right, next. Sean.
What's going on good in your life?
There's
You're
a lot of things. Okay, I'm back in school.
That's been active in your mind today. What if today, if you reflected on that, you really is like, wow.
Oh, I've reflected on some things that I was irritated about more, but I'm happy that I moved in and that I'm closer to school and that I can focus on that instead of moving. I love my schedule, and I get to spend like almost all day doing what I want to do as far as music-wise and stuff, and just get to go to school for music and then go to meetings, which is like perfect.
So all that credit goes to God in an ideal world. Go ahead.
Yeah, because I definitely went there before, and it's. Well, I was just thinking about, like, I moved into a new place, and also like, it's funny because I like the nicest places I can hate. Like when I lived in like a really nice place in Santa Monica for a while when they were redoing our house, and every time I go there, I get sick to my stomach, and everyone's like, "Why don't you like it here? It's so nice." I hate it. I had the worst years of my life. Every time I go there, I get sick. And it's funny because I don't want that to happen to the place I just moved into. Have an amazing place and just hate being there because...
Thus comes the theory of the pattern and the space around any situation is what you're talking about now. You're talking about a pattern has been recorded in that space for you that you recollect, and the counting system is there.
Yeah, and I'm changing that for school because when I was there, it was pretty bad.
But that emphasizes what we're talking about, is that accountability is in God's hands, not in ours. But we're so busy to delegate. All right, somebody else? Got good stuff going on?
Jennifer, alcoholic.
Hey, Jennifer.
I have a horse that has a really bad hoof disease called founder, and I was really bummed out about it. But I realized that because of this, I've spent a lot of time with him every day, and now when I walk up to the thing, he yells and says, "Oh, hi," and my relationship with him, to my surprise, my relationship with him has changed dramatically because of this disease that he's getting over. So it was a little bit, and I didn't realize that we didn't have any relationship before he had that. And then another thing is, I have really bad PMS, and I wake up in the morning and I want to machine gun everybody down, and I know that sounds crazy, but that's what it feels like. And so today I actually, because of the program, I was able to say, well, I'm sober. I have a list of like A through Z of all the things that are really good, like that I'm sober and I have family and we live in the United States and have money and all that stuff. So it's really cool that I can, remember that every day and I don't have to go back to the old days. So thank you.
Christian alcoholic. I woke up this morning in a really fantastic mood. Really grateful. I've been hanging out with these two guys, and they're my guy friends, and it's like the first time I've ever had guy friends. They're like brothers, and it's really cool. And I was talking with one of them, and we were at Starbucks, and they were giving those little free tasters, and they had some like strawberry coconut flavored thing, and it was so good. And I thought, God, this is better than any tropical drink I've ever had on vacation, And I thought how I was like not even missing alcohol from my life, and both of us, just because he's sober too, were just like, isn't that so cool? That's a spiritual awakening when you don't want anything to do with drugs and alcohol or people who do drugs and alcohol in your life. You just don't even want that energy around you. And that was pretty cool. And I don't know, I've just been feeling really grateful in general, so. That's great. Yeah. I'm Debbie, I'm an alcoholic.
Debbie.
Casey, I think you gave me a cold on Wednesday. He was sick.
I was.
I like the way this meeting's going. This is pretty cool. Well, I was listening to Robbie, and when I was relating, I was thinking, wow, when I have a lot of time to think about myself, I get into trouble. It means that usually I have too much time on my hands. And because when I have too much time on my hands, I just start thinking about myself. And when I start thinking about myself, it starts going toward the negative, even if I don't mean it to be that way. And so what I have found is that I have been told to look for my passion. And by looking for my passion, I don't have to search in the dirt. I just have that in the forefront of my mind all the time. And helping other people on this program is really the only thing I know how to do to get myself out of myself. And no matter what it takes, if it's me picking up the phone and making a call first, a lot of times I hear people say, oh, well, the girls that you sponsor, they're supposed to call you. I never read anywhere in the book that there's any rules about that. I just pick up the phone and say, how you doing? Or I'll get some numbers at a meeting and be the first one to call them. Because when my head is busy, I need to get out of my head. And usually when I'm talking to other people, either they're telling me what's going on with their lives, and if I'm responding to them, I'll hear myself. And whatever needs to come out is usually the thing that needs to happen for that day. And then as far as finding my passion, I noticed that since this meeting, my attitude has changed so tremendously since finding you guys and these, this Wednesday meeting and this meeting, that I can't really help it. It's like I'm led toward more and more positive things all the time. And as you know, I've always loved animals so much. As a matter of fact, before I got into real estate, I was training and grooming dogs, and I always said, well, I'm never going to be able to make enough money at this to do what I really want to do and help them. So I'm going to think of something, and I thought of real estate to go into that so I can make a lot of money and go back to do what I really want to do, which is really make some kind of impact. And all of a sudden, I find that it's time, And the other thing that's crazy is I've been going to this place on Deering a lot, where there's this huge kind of blighted animal adoption place. And I've been thinking, man, I'd love to open an educational center, for kids and people in trouble, that have to be rehabilitated and get in trouble and need to be, go to classes or something to learn how not to abuse animals. And I'd be leaving and going around the block and thinking about it, and I remembered, I know this sounds nuts, but I remembered literally around the corner, I've owned this huge property for 20 years that was right behind this place. And I've been going there for a year, and I didn't even think about it. And there's this little guy paying me $700 a month to live in a house that's there that I've never raised the rent on, that I just think, I should sell it every now and then. So now I've contacted some people, and we're maybe going to do stuff with it. And it's all because my mind is clearer to just be accepting of great things. It says in this program, expect better things. Don't want more stuff, just expect better things. And when you come from a place of service and God, like Casey was saying, this has nothing to do with me. I didn't even graduate high school. This is not smarts or anything. It's just I pray a lot more. I've learned how to pray maybe correctly. And I just really thank God for leading me to this meeting and to meeting a lot of you guys in here, because it's really changed my life in a very short amount of time. So thank you.
Thanks.
Klondike.
Klondike alcoholic. And gratitude, I love it. I mean, I got to be grateful for this guy right here. Just this meeting here and the positive energy. I came here today with just kind of a little, like the wheels starting to wobble a little, you know. And I was talking to a couple girls in here, and we just started talking positive. I go, I kind of feeling down there. And they go, well, Klondike, they made me feel great. And I realized, I am, I have some great assets. And they didn't say that, but I think I do. No, anyways, no, seriously. It just really pulled me out of it, and it's because of this meeting. At other meetings, I don't get that same feedback. It's like usually I feel myself being pulled down, it's me doing it, But when there's a lot of positive people around, I feel it's much more easier to come up than when I'm down with positive people around than being around negative people when I'm down. It's just the wheels come off and I'm gone. But here today, it's the opposite, And the other day, I was getting down on myself, and I heard I thought it was God, but it was something Casey had told me. He just it came to me at the perfect time, because usually I would just keep going down with it, but it picked me up and it shot me forward again. He would always tell me, don't look at the problem, just look at the solution. And I did that, and I got back right up on the horse, and again, it just started riding. I didn't actually have a horse, but it's a metaphor. Anyways, it's good. It's weird, Usually I wouldn't hear stuff like that, but I've been coming here long enough that the good stuff is just filtering or is coming through, blaring through instead of all that bad stuff. Oh, when I'm back here, this year, that year, blah blah blah. Now it's get back on the horse and ride, man. Get into the solution, and that's what I'm grateful for.
Cool. All right, 1 minute, everybody. Here we go. Go around the room. Go ahead. We're on a roll. Something good that's happening in your life today.
Susie, I'm an alcoholic.
Susie.
I think only by the grace of God in this program can I actually feel love, compassion, and tolerance for a person in the program who I thought screwed me over. 13th stepper. And he has prostate cancer and just went through it yesterday, and I wanted to rip him a new one.
Sounds like God took care of that for you.
Sounds like it already took care of itself. But I so want to just be pissed, but I can't. All I can do is just be there, be a friend. So, amen. That's a miracle.
Kip.
Kip, alcoholic.
Hey, Kip.
Hi. I don't think I've ever used a microphone sober before. For me, 22 days sober is really good.
Right on.
I don't know what is different, but I just I really feel good about coming to meetings, and I'm not freaked out that people are nice to me and helpful, and I appreciate that a lot. And I'm grateful for my children, and I'm grateful that my little black chicken that's wanted to have babies her whole life and never sat on 4 legs embraced the baby chicks I got for her, and now she's a mom.
That's cool, man. That's great. James.
My name's James. I'm an alcoholic.
James.
I'm just grateful that I'm alive, and it's personally put myself in some financial situations lately, and it kicks me back into my program. It kicks me back into looking at myself and the denial that I've been in, and and so what it does is it makes me reflect on my health, my sight, my 5 senses. Brings you back to, hey, forget about all that other stuff and just get back into the basics. And I'm extremely grateful that I've got a healthy 2-year-old boy, and I'm grateful for my life, and that today I don't have that gorilla on my back just kicking the what out of me. And I was adopted, and today I got a phone call and located my family members back east that really never knew of me. And for like 3 hours today, I was crying, they were crying, and I went through all that fear to make the phone call. And these people have been wondering about me my whole life. I didn't know about them, but they knew about me. And I got brothers and sisters, and they're like, get on a plane right now. And it just, and I sent them pictures on the email, and my whole life as an alcoholic, I have not felt like I fit in and I belong. And on top of being an alcoholic that doesn't fit in and doesn't belong, and so, my questions to them were like, hey, do I look like anybody? and they were like, yeah, you look just like your grandfather and your dad and the brothers and sisters. My aunts and uncles were just like, the love that they poured through me, through the phone. I can't tell you, the warmth that I felt. And you know what? That's really all that matters. And I wouldn't have been able to do that. Casey taught me a long time ago to give all those compliments that you get and all the good things that happen to you, to turn that over to God, because without God, we wouldn't be doing any of this stuff. And we wouldn't be receiving these gifts. And so it's better to, and to recognize that it's not by me, by my own power, but it's by God and Him working His magic in my life, that I'm able to do these things. And it was fearful. My heart was pounding to be able to dial those phone numbers. And the reward was, I crossed that hurdle, I crossed over that fear to find out there was no fear at all. Like he says in the forest, it was just a boogeyman. So I'm just grateful to be here. Sorry I went over a minute, and that's what I'm grateful for today in my life, reconnecting with my family and my healthy 2-year-old son.
Good afternoon. My name's Mark. I'm an alcoholic. I'll begin by thanking God for our sobriety today. I know the world's a better place, at least as long as I'm sober. And I also want to thank God for Alcoholics Anonymous and meetings like this all over the world. And what's going on good today for me is I've got a living, breathing relationship with a God of my understanding. And what a gift. And, I like what Casey was pointing out about giving credit to God. I've come to a point through past experiences that when I begin to take credit for what's happening in my life, I'm giving my life back. And it's happened to me over and over and over again, much the same way I drank. So today I get to practice humility. I get to be humble enough to remain open-minded enough to listen to each and every person. And in doing that, I get to hear God. I like what Klondike said. He said something to the effect that he thought God told him, but no, it was Casey. Well, God indwells in each and every one of us. And I believe that if I'm open-minded and I'm listening, God's message comes through every person that He connects my path with. And so what's good today is that I've been restored to sanity, thank God, not by anything that I can really pinpoint. It's just being willing to take the direction and listen to people that are applying the principles that are integrated into the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And it works. It really does. It has for me. And, I've been up, I've been down, but I find that it's always of my own doing. It's always when I get back into self. And today, right now anyway, I have that freedom from the bondage of self. And that's the best thing that's happening for me in my life right now. So anyway, I want to thank God and bless everybody here today. And happy birthday. Great stuff, man.
Hey, I'm Indiana Chris, and I've just, thank God, I've abstained, and miracles have happened. I've prayed every day, and life gets a lot better. It was just almost 2 years ago that I met Khalil in the gym. We started talking. He took me to his meeting. I met Robbie and Casey, and I seem to be directed by the grace of God. My children I get to see my children now. I'm not in jail, and life gets a lot better. I got plenty to eat and a place to sleep every night, and I just saw a guy on Venice Beach scooting around on a skateboard with one arm, and he had no other limbs.
And I thought to myself, why do I ever complain? So I feel directed and led more often now, and a little bit less prideful. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Harriet. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Harriet.
Let's see. Today I was a problem person in a problem place, and so when you said, "What am I grateful for?" or "What are we grateful for?" I thought nothing.
No, what are your assets?
Oh, what are my assets?
assets
Well,
in
that
your
would be. See, I wasn't even listening. That's what happens when you're in a problem place. You don't listen. I have so many assets. I guess the greatest one really is my sobriety, because I knew what to do today to move out of the problem. And the other assets, well, that's my greatest asset. And then I have all these other great assets that I didn't look at today, like a great marriage, a great husband, a long-term, like the longest marriage in Malibu. 32. What'd you say, 3? No, 32 years. And I have a son who's getting married in July. I have a son who's being bar mitzvahed in December. I have an aunt who I hope will come to the wedding. She's 90. I have Deirdre, my little friend, in April. No, I have a lot of things that I didn't look at today. I have a lot of things I can do. I'm very talented, very creative person. I need to acknowledge that. Another asset, and then you're really going to get sick of me, but is I have this ability to reinvent myself. And I'm very grateful for that, because otherwise I probably would be drinking. You know, I'm just way too creative to stay in one place, in one job, in one career. So I've been many things, and I'm very grateful for that. Thank you.
April Alcoholic.
April.
I want to say happy birthday to you. That's so fabulous. You're such a nice example of sobriety. He's all glowing and shiny. I'm grateful for Casey, actually, for inspiring me to come back to meetings with your powerful message. And I used to be in this program for like 13 years on a regular basis, and then I let it go because I wasn't inspired, and I feel inspired again. So that's huge, right? Today I woke up and I was grateful that I didn't have a migraine, that I wasn't feeling off, that I didn't fall prey to mental torments of any kind. And I went to the gym, and then I flew over the hill to my mom's house and had lunch with her. And I just sat there, Jerry's Deli with my mom, thinking, she's so beautiful, she's so great, she loves me so much, I'm so lucky. And let's see. That's it. Thanks.
Deirdre, and I'm an alcoholic. I love your mom. Anyway, I have to say that my greatest asset also is definitely sobriety, because without that I have nothing. And, my career path, everything in my life right now and always is subjective to my interpretation of it as a sober alcoholic. So I could say something is an asset, or I could say it's a liability, but it really comes from where I'm coming from. And a lot of what I've really gleaned, to use April's word, from this meeting is just to change my perspective and step back from, my closed view of whatever anger I'm holding on to, and just kind of let go and sort of try to see the bigger picture of everything. Because if I could have predicted my life as it is today, I would have shortchanged myself. My parents are both sickly, and I work out of their house. My office is in their home, and it allows me to be close to them every day, and I'm so grateful for that. And it's like that's such a gift for me. And then my friends, I've got my girls around me. I'm so happy to have my girls, and You know, it's a beautiful place. I'm lucky to be sober in Malibu with wonderful people and family and everything. So anyway, that's it.
Good.
Thanks, Julia. I'm Candace. I'm an alcoholic.
I'm Candace.
An asset. I guess my perception is my greatest asset. I have a very positive perception, and I'm grateful for that. And my relationship with God, you know, my constant dialogue with my God. That's all. Thanks.
All right.
Nick, alcoholic.
For Nick.
Well, I'm very grateful that I've got a month off the cigarettes, which is big.
Go.
So that's an asset, and you know, when I was new, my first sponsor had me every morning, and I did it. Thank God start from my toes up, basically. Thank God for my toes, for my feet, for my legs, for my sight, for my hearing, everything. And you know, when I start feeling ungrateful or like I have no assets today, I try to remember that little trick, and it makes my problems not seem so big anymore. So I've got a lot of good things in my life. Thanks for letting me share.
Forward.
Hi, do we say I'm an alcoholic here? I'm Heidi, I'm an alcoholic.
I don't know, it's an AA
This is my
meeting,
first
so
time being here. What?
It's an AA meeting.
Okay. Anyway, I guess my greatest asset was, well, I know what it is. I've had some sobriety off and on, but I never really thought that I could turn my problem over to somebody who could actually maybe handle it. And I think this time around, I've turned some of my fears, anxiety, and my alcohol problem over. And now I can actually have a bad attitude. Like last night I had a bad attitude. But I revamped it this morning. I said, okay, now what can I do today besides, just not drinking, which was always the biggest problem. I decided, to go to a meeting and be more available and make some friends instead of worrying about the ones I've lost, And that's huge that I could do that from last night till this morning. So I'm really grateful that I feel like I don't have to be burdened all 24 hours a day with that alcohol problem, because I couldn't solve that one, So I solved a little problem today by getting out to 2 meetings.
Hi, I'm Susan, an alcoholic.
Hi, Susan.
I think my I was going to say my biggest asset, but my only asset really is my relationship with God, and everything comes from that. And, I can't rely on people, places, or things to make me happy or to make me whole or to fill me in any way. That I have to seek first the kingdom of heaven. And I know that is within me. And I see how, this message has made a huge impact in my life and my sobriety, and I see how it's reflecting in my relationship, and how beautiful that is as a playground for application and growth. And my relationship with my higher power and with my partner and with my family and with acquaintances or anything is all opportunities for me to reveal the kingdom first, within me, and then it radiates out, and that has nothing to do with, anything but me being willing to be a conduit. So I'm grateful for this room and this message. Thank you, Casey.
Thanks. Tim, alcoholic.
Hey, Tim.
I'm gonna have to go with message too. If it wasn't for, I tried AA for years, and I could not get any more than a couple weeks, and at one point it was desperation and a mixture of this message, the way it's presented in this room, well, every meeting, but grateful for the ability to hear it, and apply it, and the relationship with the higher power, and just really able to see the disease today in my mind, and that makes a huge difference in my program, that makes the, world just open up, and it's amazing, so thanks.
Mark, alcoholic. I'm grateful to this program of primetime recovery with this message that's delivered here. I couldn't get this from standard AA meetings. I'm alive today by the grace of God. I should have been dead many times, I'm sure. And that's because God can do for me what I can't do for myself. As many times as I may have tried to kill myself, it just couldn't happen. God's always there, been within me, and that's my greatest asset, I guess, in the day I'm in, and knowing to always have a conscious contact with God whenever I get upset or depressed or feel out of balance. I know right where to go, and know to pick up the phone and call somebody in the program to help me get out of whatever I'm in. And thanks to a couple, the meeting maybe outside in the back in the grass when we talked about tabling our problems and waiting a little while to discuss them later, calling something about that. Just grateful to have the little memory I have that helps me to keep whatever part of this message I can, which is not a heck of a lot. I've always been a poor student, but it's all coming back. And my greatest asset, again, is just knowing that there's something more powerful than me in this world, and I choose to call that God, and it's the only thing that helps me in the day I'm in. Thank you.
I'm Jim. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Jim.
I'm just grateful to get a ride to this meeting and this meeting, and I guess that's it.
Dear an alcoholic, and it's obvious what I'm grateful for.
No,
my family here giving me a cake.
Bring it out.
And being here, my friend Alejandra here, who I've gotten really close to over the past few months, and my asset that I really saw today is my ability to let people be who they are and not try to change them, and not because the guy I brought here, maybe I'm not trying to change you, but you definitely, I'm gone. If you don't act right, I'm not, I'll just leave you. Or I'll stay there and I'll treat you accordingly in my mind, and you are out anyway because you don't act right. So we're still together, we're interacting, but you're out. You mean nothing to me, absolutely nothing, because you don't act right and you hurt my feelings by not acting right. And the benefits of I picked up my good friend from the hospital today and took her home, and I know she's in a really, really bad space, and for me to just love her through that and not have to get into that, and just do what I need to do as a friend, to be a friend among friends, and then watch her from getting in the car and being really nervous and full of anxiety till 20 minutes, 25 minutes later, I'm dropping her off and just seeing the transformation. Now, I don't take credit for that, but I know that I could have added to her anxiety. I could have definitely kept her in her anxiety by feeding into that well, you better act right because, I came and picked you up from the hospital, so you better act right. And it's the principles that I learned here in the 12 steps, and by me just made me think about the third step where I always tried to bombard my problems instead of asking what God's will was for me. And that to me is one of, when I walked her to her door and I came back down, just like, man, God, you're just the bomb, man. Because I know the kind of cat I am, man. I got things I got to do today. I'm kind of racy today. Alejandra knows I was kind of nervous, and and it's just God. And an asset for me to tell on myself, man, Alejandra, I'm a little nervous. I hope my family gets out there okay, and I'm a little nervous just to tell on myself, because I'm not gonna tell on myself, man. And that stuff will drive me. It will drive me, but I don't think it's a big deal. It's the little things. I don't think that's a big deal. You get over that. I just talk to God about. No, I need to tell on myself with somebody that I know understands. She's sitting right next to me. What can I tell her? I'm a little nervous. What can I tell you that? And it's God that allows me to have that humility to tell on myself, because now I feel like the whole character would be so exposed from telling on myself like that. And what a blessing. What a blessing to have people in my life that understand what I'm doing, that understand that I'm doing this because they know I need to do it, you know, and it's beautiful. Thank you.
Alejandro, alcoholic.
Yeah, Alejandro.
I don't know. I was just looking over there, and I was just like listening to like what everybody was saying. I was like, I'm just so thankful I can be here to listen and be here to feel, you know, like how beautiful recovery can be. And I was thinking, I'm just, you know, grateful that I got sober and that I got to know that, you know, God of my understanding, so I can talk to him every day and at any moment when I need it the most. I'm grateful to be sober, to be part of this fellowship, and to get to know amazing people, like good friends like Darren. I'm grateful of the women that helped me recover, and I'm, you know, grateful of like the staffs, love the staffs, because they helped me grow a lot. For other things, you know, I thank God for the willingness I have to live, to make amends when I need to tell myself. I don't know, I'm just overwhelmed right now, but it's really good, because I can get in my head really fast. I'm grateful, and then I go through the day. Every time I wake up every morning, I'm like grateful for my car, you know, even the sheets I sleep on, my clothes, everything. And you know, I'm grateful I can eat, and I love food. I'm grateful, like, you know, I can enjoy those little things about life that, you know, before I couldn't. And I don't know, I'm really, you know, I'm grateful I can come to new meetings and meet new people, you know, and hear the message in another way. So I'm just really grateful. Thank you.
Hi, I'm John. I'm an alcoholic. I have an amazing life today. And I'm really grateful to this program because about a week and a half ago I got handed one of those big lumps that they talk about in Step 12. And we read about it today, that the answer, you know, to all these things, these big problems that we have in our life is instill more spiritual development. And so, you know, the thing that's amazing is we're talking about these, you know, assets, is that because that has thrown me back, you know, closer to my program recovery. I've been writing every morning about my assets and about all the good things that I have in my life. And I'm so grateful for this meeting and the message that you help interpret for us, Casey, and that you come here every Sunday and every Wednesday and every Tuesday night to the men's meeting. And I'm very grateful for all the time that you give to me in our individual relationship and for our friendship. God, I have so many amazing things. I have 2 beautiful children. I have a really great relationship with my ex-wife, co-parenting relationship and a friendship with my ex-wife. I got a great career. I got a place to live. It's unlimited. I have really great men in my life. You know, I'm building really close relationships with the men in this program, and I'm grateful that I get to come here every Sunday and see this incredible view of the ocean and talk about spiritual principles. And ultimately what it boils down to for me is that I'm so grateful that I'm having a spiritual awakening and that it just keeps unfolding more and more each day, that I keep trying to apply myself to the program, to the principles that we talk about. And I can't wait to see what's going to happen next.
John, alcoholic. My greatest asset today, this beautiful Sunday afternoon, would have to be my friends, my family, and my desire to build a new character. Thank you.
Wait a minute, you better give him that mic back.
No.
You missed an asset, buddy.
Brett's done. Thank you.
He got you covered.
Thank you. I think my biggest asset today is really, I think one that could be like not such an asset. I think just like me being stubborn, because we were running late already today, and I would have just not come and seen you guys all Wednesday. But you know, every time we do come to the meeting, whether it's late or on time, I always leave feeling just like, you know, I feel better, and I just wasn't in a good mood at all, and it wasn't like to the last little bit till we almost got here that like I could start like laughing. It's almost like I was like being stubborn enough to not laugh because I was just pissed that I was in the car coming. But then like to come here and to like see people that that you're friends with, you can laugh with. I haven't seen Khalil in a while, and then whenever I'm here, I really do feel grateful that I stuck through it, because I remember hearing about this meeting and just thinking it was like. I remember when I met you for the first time, Khalil Khan called me out. Like, she doesn't want to be here. She doesn't think a meeting should be a guy sitting at a table talking. And I thought that's what it was. And this meeting, without a doubt, made me feel like, it just I think this did more for me than like the rehab or anything, because it's like, in a non-scary environment, and I feel like people care and people remember things. Like, I don't know. It's a very like nurturing environment to feel like when you come from a place. At least I came from a place where I felt very like alone. So I feel like my biggest asset is just like coming here today with everyone.
As Cleo said, be sincere. So, I'm grateful to be out of the valley today. And my grateful assets are, I like my friends. That's about it. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, and I'm an alcoholic. Hi. What are my best assets? Well, it's obviously my body. No, just kidding. No, I'm serious. But I'm really thankful for having Khalil in my life, because if it wasn't for Khalil, I'd be smoking crack in a crack den right now. But I just really appreciate him, and I'm just full of gratitude for him giving me a new life and hanging out with me. So yeah, that's what I'm grateful for. My best asset, seriously, is my ability to love and my compassion for others, I think. Thanks.
All right. Oh.
What's your asset?
I don't have it. Oh my God.
You don't need a mic, do you?
No. We don't have much time, but my assets. My assets are, God, it's abundant. You know what? I got the greatest asset I got going on right now is that I've got some great quality relationships in my life, and I think that's a sum total of anyone's life. And I've got such close personal relationships that, I just really couldn't. I would need a long time to describe what they do for me. And the most important part, I think, one of the greatest assets I think I get to have in my life today is that I have these perfect moments, and I get to recognize them while I'm in them. I don't have to see them afterwards, and that's probably my biggest asset. And I get an abundance of them. I get a lot of this room tonight, just listening to everybody and really hearing, these are perfect moments. This is what life is about, and not having to wait to recognize it, but actually experiencing the moment I'm in and thanking God for the grace to allow me to be a participant in this, and everybody in this room, and these meetings that I get to do. I mean, the gift that I get to do with people is, phenomenal. I think that, one of my greatest assets in life is for sure that I've helped, been a part of a lot of people's lives, and in a way that I just never could have ever fathomed. No way could I imagine I would touch as many people as that I've touched, and have as many people touch me as that has touched me. And my relationship with my son is beautiful. I had a really good moment last night with him where I told him, we're like best friends, man. We got to relate, and he was being a little butthead, and and I said, you really disappointed me tonight, and I knew I didn't want to make him feel, and I had enough cognizance in that moment with God to know I don't want to hound on him. I just want him, instead of being a frustrated parent of like, why aren't you like this? It's like, I want to be so close. And to know that we love each other so much that we're best friends. Yes, I'm your dad, but I want to be your best friend. And he got it. And kids, man, he shifted just like that. And we got to bed last night, and we were talking about global warming. And I got up this morning, and he got up and he's like, I woke up because I heard your footsteps coming in the bed. Hi, Papa, good morning. And it was just, and it's just that change. And all I did was ask, that I don't want to, because he seemed to resist me a little bit. as his father, and he heard that I don't want that resistance. I want that bond, that I'm here to teach you in life, and that no one, that this is a gift, and that you need to recognize it, and that I want you to understand that that's my role, is I teach you, and that I want to have the ability to be able to express that without resisting that. And he understood it, and the assets are. I could spend hours right now talking about it, But there's so many people too, and the eternal assets that I have is all of you, and everybody that extends from you, and the way that you touch me and inspire me to continue to live this life, and and participate and walk this path with every one of you. So those are my assets.
Thanks.
All right.